Hey, what's going on, you guys? So yesterday we had a night full of fights. We had Tszyu making his ring return against Joey Spencer. We had the top rank card with Richard Torres fighting Guido Vinalo. We had Abdullah Mason on that card as well, along with Elvis Rodriguez versus Lindolfo Delgado. And also there was the, Herkovich versus Joe Joyce fight. I didn't get the chance to watch that fight, and I know Herkovich won. A lot of people have been talking about Joe Joyce possibly needing to retire. He's had a tough career, taken a lot of punishment in some of his fights, but I did see the highlights, and it did look like Joe Joyce was taking quite a bit of right hands during the fight. But nonetheless, Joe Joyce is always going to be a tough fight for anyone in the heavyweight division. But starting with Abdullah Mason on the top rank card, I thought Abdullah looked really good. I believe he has all the skills in the world and all the potential to compete, if not, take all the titles at lightweight. I mean, I believe he gives all those guys at lightweight a very tough fight. Just a couple of things that I noticed, not only in this fight, but in the fight previously. I mean, it looks like Abdullah has some holes defensively, and I think that's the only area that he really struggles in, is defensively. We saw him get dropped 2 fights ago a couple times. And in this fight, I mean, he didn't take that much punishment at all, but there was a couple times in that fight during exchanges that his opponent threw a pretty, big shot, and it was just on the verge of landing, very close to landing. And I think as the level of competition improves for Abdullah Mason, yeah, that brings his skill level up. He may come with a different game plan, things like that. But I mean, I could see him having some issues with, a good power puncher like a Keyshawn Davis or a Tank Davis even, especially in exchanges. And with the Shakur Stevenson, possibly a Lomachenko, I believe those guys have the boxing ability and the IQ to set up shots, on Abdullah Mason and probably win on points. But I think Abdullah is just a few fights away, a few adjustments away from really being a real tough fight for any of those guys. And I mean, he's only 21 years old. So, I mean, I think he's really young and just a little bit too green before he steps in the ring with some of the champions. But he's hungry, and he even said after the fight in the interview that he's ready to change those little, continental titles and whatnot to the world titles. I mean, but we'll see. I think it is a little too early. I think give him a few more fights, let him tighten up on his defense, and I think he'll be right there. Not only in lightweight division, but divisions moving up. I believe he's a pretty big lightweight and a future pound for pound star. But with the Lindolfo Delgado Elvis Rodriguez fight, I thought that was a pretty competitive fight. More so depends on how you're scoring the fight. What are you looking for? Are you looking to see the aggressor, really put his foot down and come after his opponent? Are you looking for that type of style? Or are you looking for a slick boxer that is going to stick and move and, win on points is really what it is. All in all, I thought it was a tough fight. I'm not going to be mad if people in the comments may have thought Lindolfo pulled off the win. I believe he finished stronger. He closed the 10th round out pretty good. Definitely won the 10th. But in the round prior, in the 9th, he got hurt. And had it not been for the ropes, it could have potentially been a knockdown. But all in all, I thought it was a good competitive fight. Both of those guys, I think, could give any of the champions at 140 a tough fight. I don't know about winning, but they would definitely give them a tough fight, and I think they're deserving of it. I mean, both guys are probably around 30 years old, and, it's about time for a title shot for either one of them. But nonetheless, I thought they both could have done more, but I'm not going to be mad if people thought Delgado won the fight, or if people thought Rodriguez won the fight. But nonetheless, it was a good fight. And then in the main event, we had Richard Torres versus Vinalo. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but tough guy, Olympian. Probably the toughest fight to date for Richard Torres in his career. I mean, the dude does pose a size advantage against Torres, and this is one thing that has been talked about with, Richard Torres, is how is he going to be able to handle these bigger heavyweights. And, you look at the landscape of heavyweights. Currently, you got Usyk at the top. I mean, he's a 6'3", 6'4", but you look at the heavyweights around him, and even over these past 10 to 15 years, all these guys are 6'4", 6'5" plus, you know. And if they know how to use their size to their advantage, I think Rich Torres is going to have a really hard time moving forward. We saw him try to get it on the inside multiple times in the fight, make it a rough fight, but what happens when he is going to be dealing with somebody that knows how to use their size, he's going to be coming into a lot of punches, and we saw a glimpse of that with Vianello last night, landing a 1-2 and an uppercut. So, I mean, at some point, a good quality fighter is going to be able to time when you're trying to attack and when you're trying to get it on the inside and land some pretty big shots on you. And I think if, let's say, a Deontay Wilder or a Tyson Fury, you know, I think he's still got quite a bit of fights before he's ready for a heavyweight of that caliber, but I think those guys definitely would have got Richard Torres out of there. I think Usyk right now, him being like a 6'3", 6'4" guy, yeah, that might be the best thing for a Richard Torres, but Usyk's skill and ability, I think, would ultimately annihilate a Richard Torres. But nonetheless, there's really not much I could really say about Richard Torres. I think he's going to have a tough time ahead of him, you know, as competition improves. But moving on to Tim Tszyu versus Joy Spencer, I thought Tim Tszyu looked good. I mean, he got the third round stoppage. Joy Spencer's corner ended up throwing in the towel, but the first opening round, I thought it was going to be, you know, somewhat of a more competitive fight. It looked like Joey Spencer was using his hand speed and foot movement, you know, and it looked to be like he could have posed some problems for Tim Tszyu. But as the fight went on, I mean, we ended up seeing both of those things stop. His foot movement, for some reason, stopped. I mean, he ended up just standing right in front of Tim Tszyu, and Tim Tszyu took advantage and ended up getting him out of there, landing some pretty big shots. But all in all, I guess it's good to see Tim Tszyu come back with a solid win like that. The only time we saw Joey Spencer lose was against Jesus Ramos, and Jesus Ramos is a good quality fighter. But does this put Tim Tszyu back into the picture at 154 with, you know, guys like Virgil Ortiz, Boachuk? You know, the 154-pound division is stacked. And I don't know if he's ready for one of those guys. I believe another, you know, I want to say a tune-up fight, but a fight on lesser competition would be good for him. And we also saw Keith Thurman make a call-out video for a Tim Tszyu fight. Now, I think a Keith Thurman fight makes perfect sense if I'm Tim Tszyu. I mean, Keith Thurman is coming off a recent win, but before that, he took a really long layoff. So, I mean, considering the fact that Tim Tszyu, his last 3 fights, he lost 2 of them, and now he came back with this win against Joey Spencer, I think this is the perfect time to make that fight for either one of those guys. I mean, the fight was already supposed to be scheduled in the past, and, you know, Keith Thurman had to pull out due to injury, and, you know, we saw what happened. Sebastian Fundora stepped up and, you know, ended up beating Tim Tszyu in a tough fight. But I think that would be the perfect fight for both of those guys. And I think the winner of that definitely gets put back into that title contention, back into the picture with all the other top guys at 154. And yeah, man, I think that's a great fight. But let me know what you guys thought of the fights. Are you excited to see Keith Thurman versus a Tim Tszyu? And where do you really see Abdullah Mason? What's the next move for Abdullah Mason? But let me know what you guys thought. Hate, like, comment, subscribe. Till next time.